Today I'm talking about my top 5 favorite new movies of 2024. And this is out of a total of 114 new movies from across the year. Hey, today I'm talking about the new psychological mystery thriller Blink Twice. This is Zoe Kravitz's directorial debut, and she knocked it out of the park. I crazy loved this movie. Oh my god. The basic premise is this woman has kind of a sad life, but she also has this obsession with this tech billionaire because she met him in passing one time, and now she's gonna meet him again soon, and she's really excited. Hopefully she'll make a good impression this time. And yeah, no, I freaking love this movie. It's so good. Like, I remember thinking really early on too, just like how well it's made. Like, before we even really got into any of the story or anything, just like the direction, the cinematography, all of the subtle storytelling things that they were doing was just so top notch. I was blown away by how well crafted of a film this was. All of the actors did a great job. The lead, Naomi Ackel, was really great at giving the whole range of emotion while still feeling true to her character. Like, I won't say what happens at the end, but at the end there's kind of a little bit of a shift. And it's not who she had been for a while, and that makes sense, but it's still who she was throughout the entire film. Like, definitely, like, it feels true to her character to do this thing at the end. And boy, oh boy, was it a satisfying ending, I do have to say so. I mean, really could go on and praise every single other actor in this film, but that would take up like the entirety of this review, so I'm just gonna call out one more, and that's Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum crushed it. He was charming when he needed to be charming. He was intense and terrifying when he needed to be intense and terrifying. You could understand where he was coming from while also still despising him deeply. So that was just a really great nuanced performance. This is probably my favorite performance of Channing Tatum's. He crushed it. It's just such a good, strong feminist film, and like, it doesn't sugarcoat things, and it does plainly state what it's about, but it also doesn't like bash us over the head with what it's about. But because they did plainly state it, there is no confusion with what it's trying to tell us, which I liked. I think that was a good idea to do that, especially with how they balanced it. And just, I don't know, man, it just really connected with me and really worked for me. It was just such a well done film. I really hope Zoe takes this as a win and continues to do directing, because I can't wait to see what her next project is. I think she absolutely crushed it here, and I hope that she sees that. I hope this movie does really well, because I definitely want to see what else Zoe Kravitz can come up with. So yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed this film, and I would wholeheartedly recommend it. Though I will say it does start with like an actual trigger warning at the beginning, because it does cover some really dark and messed up stuff. So I would just kind of caution a little bit, but it's a very well crafted film. So if you can handle it, I would say go for it, because it's such a really freaking great film. Hey, today I'm talking about the new emotionally devastating Netflix film, His Three Daughters. This stars Carrie Coon, Natasha Lyonne, and Elizabeth Olsen. The basic premise is these 3 grown women are waiting for their dad to die whilst in hospice care. And of course, they're dealing with all of the emotions from just their father dying, but also just from, like, you know, a lifetime of dealing with your sisters. And it's incredible. It's so freaking good. Just like from the get-go. The first shot is a monologue delivered by Carrie Coon that just like hooked me right away and told me everything I need to know about like the setup of what's going on, and also just everything I need to know about her character. And then Elizabeth Olsen comes in and gives like a very different monologue. So it's like, okay, now I understand the relationship between these 2 women. And then we got Natasha Lyonne, who's just kind of sitting there quietly, which also again just tells me everything I need to know. So that was just like the perfect way to set up the film. There's so many things to praise with this film. I mean, the writing is at the core of it, because it's just such an incredibly well written script. But then of course the performances are right there on top of it, just like elevating this deeply emotional character study. Carrie Coon does such a great job of making me hate her character at times, because like there were moments where I'm just like yelling at the screen with just how frustrated frustrated I am with her. But her emotional response to the situation is so realistic because she's just kind of a controlling mother who needs to take everything into her own hands and gets frustrated at other people who aren't taking control of their own situation. And she's overreaching because she's, at an emotional high point. And she's just not recognizing that she's just projecting her own emotions onto other people because she can't handle her own emotions. And that's just so masterfully done. Natasha's so great. I connected with her the most, even though I wouldn't really call us the most similar of the three, kind of in broad strokes. I definitely connected to all three of them for sure, but probably Natasha the most. And like what was so great, I literally had to stop the movie at one point just to break down the nuances of what her character had just done, because someone will be kind of talking at her and they'll ask her a question. And instead of responding directly to the question, she more so addresses the underlying question, the question that the person isn't asking her. And by doing that, she of course derails the conversation and she gets a much bigger reaction out of the person she's talking to than she really anticipated. And so then she'll try to actually answer the question that was asked at her, but you can't put toothpaste back in the tube, so now she's just dealing with the consequences of addressing the underlying issues. And that's just so well done. And of course, gotta praise Elizabeth as well. Her particular praise would be more so her body acting of those times when she's not talking. There's one scene in particular where like she's literally just sitting still trying to have a moment. And it's just like, there's just something about it. She nailed it. She really, really nailed that silence. The movie is just so realistic and real to life. And I love just how unique each of the women are, but can very clearly see that they are sisters, they're connected, and how those connections both do work together and don't work together. And it's just, man, it's so well done. It's a masterclass in writing and such fantastic performances. So yeah, no, if you couldn't tell, I crazy loved this movie. It's so good. I almost had to stop it just because of how emotionally draining it was, because it's just like, you're watching three women deal with their dad dying, and that's really, really sad. But they just nailed it. So yeah, I love the movie, and I would recommend it, just like, cautiously, because it's not like any old day you want to watch a movie that's gonna make you really, really sad. So just get yourself into the right mindset to watch this movie, and you're gonna have a really emotionally complex experience that's gonna leave you better off by the end. So yeah, it's a really good film. Just be in the right emotional state before you turn this one on. It's worth it though. It's 100% worth it. Hey, today I'm talking about the new movie I Saw the TV Glow. And the basic premise is, it's the 90s and these two lonely teenagers find each other and bond over this silly TV show that's essentially like Buffy the Vampire Slayer meets Are You Afraid of the Dark? And through that, they feel a connection. This is a very slow, quiet film that's existentially sad and depressing, but just like so masterfully done. I loved it immensely. Like there's so much about it that's just fantastic. First off, the soundtrack. The soundtrack's great. Normally those don't jump out at me, but this one, listening to it on repeat, and I've just been vibing. The performances are incredible. Both the leads give such great nuanced performances. I especially loved how they spoke. Firstly, just with like the way they controlled their voices, because it felt kind of like mumblecore-esque, but also sort of whispering, but in a way that felt very realistic and natural. But then even the dialogue was so natural in such a way that it blew my mind. And I'm just like, how did you capture this dialogue? There were times where like they would try to explain something and they explain it really shittily, but in a way that made sense. Their brain couldn't fully form all the ideas, but they still came up with the answer there. And so it was incredibly well written. The ideas presented in this film are just so good, such great ideas. Because it's maybe a little bit sci-fi-esque, or maybe it's not, and that's sort of the crux of it. And I don't think they give a definitive answer on that, which kind of makes it more depressing, because like the end, oh my god. Like the last, I'm not gonna say what happened, but like the last 15 minutes, I'm just like, why am I just so incredibly sad right now? They brought up like these such existential ideas, and it's in a sense, witnessing the consequences of those existential ideas is very deeply sad. It's about how time speeds up as you get older. It's about crippling fear, keeping you in the same place in life. It's about loneliness. It's about trying to move on. There's so much nostalgia too, but in a very naturalistic way. There's a ton to this movie, and a ton just really truly struck a chord with me. Like, I'm very surprised with how deeply this movie affected me. It was to the point of legitimately after the movie, I left the theater and then just sat in my car and cried for about 15 minutes. And then like I had to take the hour drive home film, and I was just kind of barely holding on. It really just emotionally wrecked me for the entire rest of the day, and it still lingers in my mind, just in the back of my mind, this kind of, in a sense, dread, but in a not bad way. That like, yeah, dread is bad, but like, it's fascinating to me how much I'm still carrying this movie with me days later. It just goes to show the power of this movie. I don't think that'll be the experience for everyone. I think it just particularly struck a chord with me, but I do still recommend it, though I don't think it's a movie for everyone, because it is a slow, quiet film, and those you gotta be in the right headspace for. I do think it's more targeted at millennials in particular, though I do think if you're outside that age range, you can still enjoy it. It's a very specific kind of movie that's not a movie for everyone, so I definitely recommend it, but more cautiously. You just kind of have to suss out your own emotions of, do you think you can handle this slow, quiet film? So yeah, it is great and totally worth a watch, but set yourself up for success with this movie. Hey, today I'm talking about the new movie, How to Have Sex. This movie is really, really good, but it's a slow, quiet film that's also very sad and like can be triggering. So just warning to that. I won't get graphic with details, but just like be prepared. So the basic premise is this group of 16-year-old British girls go on vacation to Greece to just like party up and have a good time. And one of them is a virgin. And so part of her goal this trip is to have sex with someone. And because of her naivety, she doesn't notice red flags, which there are a number of, and things don't go great for her. And oh god, no, there's just like so many times throughout the film where I'm just like, I wanted to yell at the screen, just being like, no, just don't, just go away. Just, you don't need to do this thing. You don't need to play games with these boys. You don't need to be pressured into a thing. Just understand yourself. Your body is telling you what to do. Your body is telling you no, get out of this situation. So get out of this situation. But like, it's so realistic because it's just like, she's a child. She doesn't understand what her body's telling her to do, and then it's so heartbreaking, the things that happen to her. Like at one point in time, she finds a group of older people who are super friendly and super nice, and there's nothing malicious about them, and she bonds with them and spends some time with them, and I'm just like, no, stay with them. They're gonna make sure that you have a good time. Stay with them. It'll be good. You'll be solid. You'll be golden. But no, she has to go back to her friends. Oh god, yeah, no, it's just, it's a very heartbreaking movie. I cried so much at the end. It's intense. It doesn't get like super graphic or anything, but it's still like difficult to look at sometimes. And none of these are criticisms. These are all compliments of the film. This film did a fantastic job with emotion and tone, and in particular in the beginning too, it did such a great job of like capturing just young people being drunk and obnoxious and just partying, to the point of like, I was getting annoyed because I'm just like, I enjoyed that scene when I was in my early 20s, but like in my 30s, I'm like, that is way too much. Ugh, I don't like this. But like, again, that's not a complaint. That's the movie doing a good job of nailing the realism in a sense. And I have to praise the main actress. She freaking crushed it so hard. Mia McKenna Bruce. Like, she was very fun-loving and great in the beginning, but then like as things got bad, she did such a great job of like being broken, but not really understanding her brokenness. And then like not crying. Like, she was able to be like incredibly sad with no tears. That in particular reminded me a lot of The Apartment. In particular, Shirley MacLaine has a great moment in that film. She's similarly very broken with loud partying stuff going on and not crying, but still being insanely sad. But that makes it even more sad because there are no tears. So yeah, Mia did an incredible job. I definitely want to check out more of her stuff because she crushed it so well here. Based off of this movie, she should have a good long career because she is talented AF. And I'm also very excited to see more stuff from this director. This is this director's directorial debut, and I think, yeah, no, they're going places. This movie was top-notch amazing. So yes, if you couldn't tell, I really love this movie and definitely would recommend it, though again cautiously, because it does cover some very intense stuff. And what's so interesting too, real quick, is that it is technically a slow, quiet film, but it's a slow, quiet film that's a bunch of loud party scenes. So there's a lot of scenes where just like there's a lot of noise, but like it's still a slow, quiet film. So yeah, no, really love this film. Definitely recommend. Just cautiously, if you know yourself. If you think you can handle this, definitely go for it because it's definitely worth a watch. Hey, today I'm talking about Dune Part 2. I loved this movie. It's so good. It's so good. I had high expectations and it just crushed it. This is gonna be me mostly just gushing about all the things I loved about it. But if you haven't seen the movie and you want someone's thoughts on it without spoilers, if you even like kind of enjoyed the first one, you're gonna enjoy this one. If you haven't seen the first one, Denis Villeneuve tried to make part 2 accessible to people who haven't even seen the first one. And honestly, I think he nailed it. I think you can go into this movie having not seen the first one. You're definitely gonna get a lot more out of it have you had seen the first one, but you're not gonna be confused. You're not gonna be lost. Like, it is a sci-fi movie and there's lots of weird sci-fi stuff, so that'll take a bit to get used to, but I honestly think that like you can go into this movie more or less blind and still get a lot out of it. But yeah, no, I loved it. I know I'm gonna get into spoilers, so there's so much that I love about this movie. Timothée Chalamet did a great job again. I really loved his performance, especially like as his character just evolved over time, because like he definitely started off as like just a cute little lover boy, and I love the relationship between him and Zendaya. I feel like their romance was believable, and then just like how much he hated the prophecy and hated all of this worship, and he just wanted nothing to do with it. But then of course as the movie goes on, he sees that there's only one path to not total destruction, and it's for him to do lots of murder, and like how much that just like hurts and pains his soul. But then like eventually he does have that big shift, because he has to have that big shift, but like it's so understandable why he goes from just like stupid propaganda to, all right, I'm the Messiah, let's go murder some bitches. And then like Zendaya is great too, because like she turns at that exact same moment from being like, you're the best, to you're not the person that I thought you were, and I don't like this. And I can definitely relate to that and understand that, but it's also just like, you know, it's a really complex situation. The story is just really, really great. I loved how much time they took to do everything. Like the amount of time of them just like being in the desert, just vibing, was great. It really gave a sense of scale and a sense of time passing. Though I know not a lot of time actually passed in the movie versus what happens in the book, because I think it's like 5-ish years in the book, whereas like it's about 9 months in the movie, which is definitely a bit of a difference. And I can understand people not being happy about that, but whilst watching the movie the first time, having forgotten about that fact, I didn't really mind. My favorite scene is definitely when Paul first rides a sandworm. Oh my god. Especially watching that in IMAX, it vibrated my soul. It was just so good. Everything about that scene is just perfect. Like the sound design is incredible. You can feel the scale of everything. You can feel the adrenaline pumping. It's just like such a magical moment. It's such a movie moment, and it just works so damn well. Javier Bardem also just crushes it. I kept being so surprised with like the jokes that essentially happened with his character, but they honestly work really, really well. He's this firm believer and he's gonna believe in Paul no matter what, and it seems absurd at times that he is believing in him. Even when Paul like flat out is just like, dude, I'm not the guy. I was not expecting to get like big crowd laughs from this movie, but it honestly worked really well. When Josh Brolin showed back up, I'm like, I've missed you. And it was so satisfying. And I really felt for Paul too in that moment, because he's just like, this is a person who's meant so much to him in his life, and now he's suddenly back, and it's just like, it's great. It's so good. It's so good. I think they did a great job with Austin Butler's character, just like really making him very intimidating and just a force to be reckoned with, and like he could shit up at any moment, but like he's focused in his madness. Plus like the black and white stuff on his planet, awesome, so cool. Yeah, no, just the whole thing was just so good. It was so satisfying. I think the end was great too, because like it definitely feels like a nice conclusion to this chapter of the story, but it definitely still feels like there is a lot more story out there, and I know there's a lot more story out there, and I'm very excited to see exactly where they go next. But yeah, no, it's just so good, so beautiful. I can't wait to watch it again. I've already seen it twice. So yeah, if you've watched this whole thing and you haven't seen it, I without a doubt recommend it. I crazy love it. It's a beautifully made, incredibly well-told story that's so interesting and just works from top to bottom. So yes, without a doubt, would recommend.